Hey there, how's it going? I guess this is as good a time as any to do the debut episode of Shooting from the Hip here. And so this first episode, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, and that's professional wrestling. Some people, that's not really their cup of tea. Other people, hey, they're right on board with me. I don't know about you, but I kind of feel fortunate that I was able to grow up in the era that I was able to grow up in, seeing the classic era, with the Hulk Hogan's and the Rockin' Wrestling, and then you got several lean years there with the next generation coming in, and then of course you've got the Attitude Era. Of course, I think everybody around here probably knows about that. And then of course now you got the modern era with all the reality stuff going on, and but I think it's an exciting time in professional wrestling, even though there's no more territory systems, and you've really got a lot of guys that's kind of hungry to learn what wrestling is. And when I was growing up, it was always you had 3 channels on, and the only thing that we could get here where I lived, because everything was still in the territory system, was was world-class championship wrestling. So if it was on channel 3, you had to wait until like 1 a.m. on a Sunday night in order to see the Von Erichs, and it was on the only Christians channel that we had. So and if it wasn't that, it was the tape exchange, because this was, believe it or not, before there was an eBay and before there was everything else. Everything was done on a VHS tape exchange, kind of like what we did later on with all the ECW tapes and stuff. You could never find ECW because where I was, it was never on, and if it was like at 3 a.m. in the morning, and the most horrible time slot in the world. But to have some sense of direction in here, I still think in today's world of wrestling, you see a lot of formulaic scripted promos and stuff, and that's not so much that I like. But what I do like to see is a lot of today's athletes tend to be a lot more healthier, which is something I'm a big emphasis on now, due to the fact that I'm so big on nutrition and things now, which is good, and it's all the wrestlers in the past that's unfortunately passed away, that's no longer here with us, due to the fact of the lifestyle that used to go on back in the day. That's one good thing that I think is about today's professional wrestling, is that I don't have to watch it in fear that one of these guys is going to wind up on the news the next morning for something that some type of overdose or something like that, and that's always tragic when it happens. But like I said, I mean, the thing I think is really missing, and what is my 3 all-time favorite professional wrestlers is, and I'll throw a couple of them in there, is most definitely Jake the Snake Roberts. As far as talking and as far as ring psychology, I don't think there's anybody that could ever match Jake the Snake. I don't know if anybody following this is familiar with what Diamond Dallas Page is doing with his DDP yoga program and things like that, but Jake Roberts has had a tough life, and I'm just so excited to see that he's got his life back on track, and things are going great for him right now, and I just hope it just keeps going that way, and I wish him the best and things like that. I do actually have DDP yoga as one of my workout routines, but the thing about it is, I've never seen a guy that could actually look into the camera, engage the audience, and sit there and actually scare the heck out of you, like Jake the Snake Roberts could do. There's nobody. There's very, very few. I will say that. I will retract that and say that. I remember being a little kid and just watching Saturday morning Wrestling Slam or whatever it was, and I remember Jake the Snake was feuding with The Undertaker at the time, and he just looked into the camera, and he wasn't the biggest guy, he obviously wasn't the strongest guy, because back then everybody was all muscle bound and everything. But for some reason, you know, this guy, you could watch him and you just knew that he might not be the toughest dude in the yard, but for some reason you believed everything that he said. That somewhere or another he was going to find a way to kick your butt. And you know, I don't know about you, but in life in general, I mean, there's a few guys that you want to mess with. There's the muscle-bound guy that obviously you can attack him a certain way, and then you've got your wiry guys, and you can kind of develop a strategy for them. But there's always that really crazy psychotic guy that you just don't know what he's going to do. And this Jake the Snake Roberts cat was just one of those guys that you look on the screen and him talking to you in the screen, and it just made you think that this was one of those type of guys that you just don't know, that I just wouldn't bet against him in a fight, that this guy wasn't going to come out of there winning. And you want to go pay your money to see this guy. I mean, and obviously another one was Roddy Piper. I mean, it was one of the most hated men in the wrestling, and one of the most hilarious guys that had the best one-liners in the business. And I'm a firm believer that if there wasn't a Roddy Piper, there would definitely, most certainly, never have been a WrestleMania. And Roddy Piper is definitely one of my favorites, all-time favorites. And you know, there's very few that could talk like him. There's very few that could get somebody to just hate him. You know, I mean, I was never a big Hulk Hogan fan. I mean, not that I disliked Hulk Hogan, but during that whole era, it was just, I was fascinated by the bad guys. You know, the guys that just make you just want to just see them get their butt kicked. You know, and there was very few guys that could do it as well as Mr. Roddy Piper. You know, that just made you just wanted to pay that last $25 that you were going to do something just to see him get his stupid mouth shut up. And that's the nature of the business in wrestling, obviously, is to trick, you know, people to, you know, come and give me their money to come and see me get my ass kicked, you know, or something like that. That's the idea. That's how wrestling works. Duh, but I'm not telling you anything you don't know, obviously. But anyways, you know, Roddy Piper is one of the best. Mick Foley, one of the most super nice guys in the world. Obviously, he's probably one of my favorite, obviously, wrestlers. He's got one of the best books of all time. Of all the wrestling books that have come out, the litany of wrestling books that have trounced the bookstores in the numerous years, there is two professional wrestlers' books that I think, above all, are must-buys, and that is obviously Mick Foley's books. Not only is he a great wrestler, not only is his story an improbable story of awesomeness, but he is one of the best individuals that you'll ever meet, and I have met him. He's a great soul, and he's just an all-around great person. And obviously the other one is Chris Jericho. I have never laughed so hard at a wrestler's book, because most of the other wrestlers' books are done by ghostwriters and stuff like that, but he actually wrote his, and I mean, it was one of the best stories, especially when he goes down to Mexico and all the stories of him meeting Eddie Guerrero, and then of course going over there to Germany and learning how to do the catch form of wrestling, and then the coup de grace, he going over there to Japan and learning the hard style of the art of professional wrestling over there in Japan, which is just it's a whole nother world over there. And to sit in the dojos, and it's different to go over to Japan as a maid wrestler, because you're treated as royalty. And you go over there to train as a wrestler in a dojo, and you make it out of there. And not only just make it out of there, but become a success. Now that's saying something. So you talk about nothing but some respect for Mr. Chris Jericho. And not only that, but he was, proud graduate of the Hart Dungeon. So, I mean, and just to read the whole thing, and that was just his first book. I mean, this guy was great. He wrote a second book, and apparently he's got his third book done. And he's also back taking on Bray Wyatt right now, which is awesome. But anyways, like I said, it's just a different era that we're in right now, which is not a bad era. You know, and it's Stone Cold Steve Austin, the whole Attitude Era, which I'll have to go into link again. This is just kind of an overview, but you know, basically, the state of wrestling nowadays, I think it's great. WWE's got the NXT, the WWE Performance Center. They've got deals where young athletes will be able to plan for their future at least, and hopefully not get mixed up in drugs and alcohol, and not wind up, like I said, an unfortunate, you know, headline like so many of the wonderful, you know, guys that used to be on my television screen that's no longer with us that I wish was. And not every one of them that wound up, you know, passing away did so because of, you know, drugs or something related to drugs or alcohol abuse. You know, some of it was unfortunate accidents. But, you know, what I'm trying to say is you know, and some of those things are still going to happen, and you know, you can't do something about that. What I'm trying to say is it looks like the future's bright, you know, especially with Daniel Bryan and all that Yes movement and stuff that's going down, and right now Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose. I'm going to tell you something. Dean Ambrose is amazing. He reminds me a little bit of Roddy Piper, a little bit of Jake the Snake, and a nice big helping of Flying Brian Pillman, the loose cannon himself. Brian Pillman was one of my favorites. But anyways, I'm just getting home from work, and I thought I'd get this first episode hammered out. But I better sign off for now. But all you wrestling fans out there, I'm going to give you a big heads up and leave me a few messages. Follow me at Thorkin capital DM _ Thorkin, and let me know what you think about it. You have a good evening, and keep on rocking.